Starting off this countdown, we have the Stairway to Heaven. The Stairway to Heaven, or the Haiku Stairs, is a very steep hiking trail that was closed in 1987. It was closed because of lack of maintenance of the trail, and it was deemed unsafe. It's considered one of Hawaii's most dangerous trails, but that didn't stop 18-year-old Dalen Pua from hiking out there. On February 27, 2015, Dalen went out for a hike. He had previously told his grandmother, who he was visiting, that he wanted to do so, but she warned him against it. Also, you can get charged if you do trespass. But that didn't deter Dalen. On that day, he told his grandma he was going out for a hike, but she didn't think he would dare to go there. She was wrong. The last time anyone saw him was around 11 a.m. when he sent a photo to his family of him at that location. He never returned home. Of course, there are a number of theories as to what happened to him. Maybe he fell while on the hike, since the area is dangerous. But then again, his body or bones were never found. Another theory is that he was kidnapped or killed by someone. In the photo he sent to his family, it said you can see a man lurking in the foliage. Was this his killer? Sadly, we might never solve this case. Coming in at number 9, we have Snake Island. With a name like that, who would even want to visit it? And as you probably guessed, it is covered in snakes. This island is apparently home to around 4,000 snakes, most of them being golden lancehead vipers, aka one of the deadliest serpents in the world. It's said that this type of viper can grow up to 18 inches long, and it's so poisonous that one bite can kill you within an hour. As a result, the Brazilian government has banned anyone from ever going there. If you do, well, chances are you won't make it back alive. Legend goes that a fisherman arrived at the island in search of bananas, but was found days later in his boat, dead in a pool of his own blood. Then from 1909 to the 1920s, a family lived on the island to run the lighthouse. But according to another legend, the entire family was found dead after a group of snakes came into their home and attacked them. So like I said before, you don't ever want to go to this island. Moving on to number 8, we have Area 51. Of course this had to be on the list. Area 51 is a top secret government facility that is illegal for the public to visit. Anyone that does try to trespass can be charged, arrested, or even shot to death. This is what happened to a man in 2019. On January 28th, the man attempted to get into Area 51. He was then chased down by some cars for 8 miles. When he got out of his car, he was shot dead. Another case would be the 2 YouTubers that were arrested in September of 2019 after they tried to sneak into Area 51 and were caught recording the premise. I know we all want to know what really goes on in there, like if they got aliens or whatnot, but curiosity killed the cat. Just saying. In our 7th spot, we have the Devil's Hole. With a name like that, maybe it's best you don't visit it. So the Devil's Hole is located in a national wildlife refuge in Nevada. You can tour the area, but access to the Devil's Hole itself is off limits. They have a sign and a fence guarding the area, and the sign reads as so: due to the scientific importance of this area and its fragile nature, unauthorized entry is prohibited. Yes, they want to protect the ecosystem, but also it is so dangerous to enter there. So Devil's Hole is like a little hole of water. When you dive in, it's filled with complex underwater caverns. Back in 1965, one night a group of 4 friends decided to hop the fence and explore the Devil's Hole. It was Paul, David, Bill, and Jack. Jack was on the lookout while the 3 dove in, but Paul never resurfaced. As a result, David and Bill both went back under to look for him, but then David never resurfaced. To this day, their bodies have never been found. Moving on to number 6, we have Waverly Island. Tourists are banned from ever visiting this island, because chances are your vacation will take a deadly turn if you decide to go there. This island is home to thousands of saltwater crocodiles, and they weigh around 2,000 pounds. Even the small ones pose a threat to humans. They have the capability of killing someone twice their size. On top of that, they are highly aggressive and will attack anyone that enters their habitat. In fact, the most number of fatalities in a crocodile attack took place at Waverly Island. In 1945, British soldiers drove the Japanese fighters off the main area of the island, forcing them to flee into the marshy area surrounding the island. One problem: those marshes were filled with hungry crocodiles. As a result, 500 soldiers were killed by these crocodiles. So yeah, maybe don't go to this island unless you want to be crocodile dinner. And of course, there's a number of stories of tourists going to this island and then being attacked and killed by these beasts. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Poveglia Island. Now here's the thing with Poveglia Island. You can visit it, but it would be a death wish if you did. Poveglia Island is extremely isolated and it's almost completely covered by a glacier. Its nearest inhabited land is 1,600 miles away. One way to get there is by boat, but it would take very long and you would be facing extreme weather conditions while doing so. As a result, most expeditions are done by helicopter. Even then, if the weather suddenly changes, you're basically screwed because the island is so remote and far away from other pieces of land. But in 1964, a lifeboat was found abandoned at this island. How did it get there? How could this little boat survive crossing the Southern Ocean? It's a mystery that still baffles many. But also, where did the passengers of the boat go, if they had any? We got no clue, just a couple of theories. And at number 4 we have Vortex Spring. Vortex Spring is known for having pretty complex diving caves, but only those that have a diving certificate or are accompanied by an experienced diver can go there by themselves. In the 1980s, 13 people died in the vortex. There's one area in the underwater caves that are considered so deadly that it's blocked off, and people are prohibited from entering there. It's got this creepy warning sign with the Grim Reaper, and it's often locked with a gate. It's just far too easy for people to get lost and drown in there. But that didn't stop Ben McDaniel. On August 18, 2010, Ben was seen entering the water near the caves and was never seen again. This case is quite strange, like there's a lot of pieces to it. Some say he faked his death because he owed the IRS a lot of money, and also he had a failed marriage, so maybe this was his way of starting over. Or Ben really did get lost in the caves and drowned, but his gear or body have never been found. In our 3rd spot, we have the Bolton Strid. The Strid near Bolton Abbey is said to be the most dangerous stretch of water in the world. Just by looking at it, you wouldn't even think it's dangerous. I mean, the current isn't even that fast. But below the water surface are strong undercurrents that will toss you back and forth against the sharp, jagged rocks until you die. It's also fairly deep and it could just suck you down until you drown. In fact, it has a 100% fatality rate. Everyone that has gone or fallen in have never made it out alive. Their bodies also have never been found. There are a number of stories of people trying to leap across the river only to slip and fall in. In one case, there was a newlywed couple visiting the Strid. However, upon trying to cross the Strid, the bride fell in, and the groom fell in also trying to save her. As a result, there are a number of warning signs all around the area trying to warn people of the Strid's dangers. But of course, a lot of people ignore the signs since the Strid is so deceiving and looks pretty safe. In our 2nd spot, we have North Sentinel Island. The reason why you can't visit this island is because it is home to a tribe that will kill anyone who dares to intrude on their land. They live their own life completely isolated from the rest of the world. In fact, they still live a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. But a man named John Allen believed that with the power of God, he would be able to convert them to Christianity and help them. He believed that this island was Satan's last stronghold on Earth. So in November of 2018, he headed out to the island. Now, the people that took him there knew of the dangers and really didn't want to, but he was so insistent that they finally gave in. In fact, they were later arrested for doing so. John's first attempt at making contact with them didn't go as planned. As soon as he stepped foot on the island, several men came charging at him, firing arrows. So he fled. But on November 16th, he tried again. He got a fisherman to drop him off alone, and that was the last time anyone had ever seen him. When people went back there for him, they saw the tribe members dragging his dead body with a rope. And in our number 1 spot, we have the Secret Cave. It was the evening of August 17th, 2005, and 5 friends were having dinner together. They were Scott McDonald, J. Blake Donner, Jennifer Lynn Galbraith, Ariel Singer, and Stephen Hunley. While eating, the group got to talking about this secret cave, which was a legend where they were from. It's all about this cool secret cave slash hangout spot. Rumor has it that's where human sacrifices were made, etc. But of course, no one thought it was a real cave. That's when Jennifer said that it was real and that she had been there before. The friends, not really believing her, asked her to bring them there. And so they did. So basically, up in the mountains by Brigham Young University, there was this small opening to a cave. The entrance was in the shape of a Y. But in order to get to the secret hangout spot, Jennifer told them they would have to dive down one area through this underwater tunnel to the other side, where there was an air pocket. The tunnel was 15 feet, and the gap they would have to swim through was 20 inches wide. So it was just enough for people to squeeze through. On top of that, someone had put a rope in the water so you could just pull yourself underwater with. So that's what the four of the friends did. Stephen Hunley decided to stay back. He waited for the group for about an hour, then he decided to call for help. And when police arrived, they were horrified at what they saw. So it seems like the group of friends successfully managed to get to the other side, but they couldn't make it back. The police ended up pumping out the water so that they could enter. And that's when they found all four of the friends' bodies stacked up against each other. It seems as if the person leading, who was Jennifer, got stuck on the way out and then she drowned. It would then be impossible to swim over her. So then the second person that went swimming was stopped at Jen's body, and they couldn't get back out because then the third person was coming in. So everyone was just blocked in this small tunnel. Slowly but surely, all of them drowned in this small dark cave. For safety reasons, this cave is no longer accessible.
In our number 10 spot today, we have Pluto's Gate. This is a site that is located in what was once the ancient city of Hierapolis, which resides in what is now Turkey. This site was once dedicated to the Roman god of death, Pluto, and an ancient historian named Strabo, who once went to this location, said that, quote, "Any animal that passes inside meets instant death. I threw in sparrows and they immediately breathed their last and fell." So yeah, maybe it's not really an inviting place exactly. Turns out there is more to this than just myth, however. Scientists measured the CO2 concentration at this site and discovered that during the day this place might be fine, but during the night the CO2 becomes heavier than air and pools at the bottom, which forms this sort of deadly lake. The reason it's fine during the daytime is because the sun is able to dissipate the gas. It is said that at dawn the CO2 concentration that was measured 40 centimeters above the floor was at 35%, which would be enough to take a life within minutes. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Back in 1986, there was the tragic event of the accidental nuclear meltdown at the Chernobyl nuclear plant. The aftermath of this disaster took many lives, and it also rendered the area unsafe for years to come. While some of the areas surrounding the disaster are relatively safe now, there is still an area called the Chernobyl exclusion zone, which is strictly forbidden because of the radioactive contamination. You would think that the threat of a horrible death, or at least some painful side effects, might be enough to keep people out, but that is not the case. Throughout the years, people have continually tried to sneak into this zone to catch a glimpse at what exactly it holds. In our number 8 spot today, we have Zone Rouge. This area, also referred to as the Red Zone, is an area of France that is one of the most restricted on Earth. Located in northeastern France, it is said that this chain of uninhabited areas was completely destroyed after the events of the First World War. This area contains a mass amount of both human and animal remains, along with way too many unexploded weapons that have gone on to contaminate the surrounding water and land. This has led to the French government prohibiting any kind of activity in the areas that includes any sort of agricultural or settlement. I mean, I wouldn't particularly want to risk it with an undetonated explosive, so it completely makes sense why this area would be restricted. In our number 7 spot today, we have Snake Island. This island is located in Brazil and is one of the most dangerous in the entire world, and that is because it is absolutely filled to the brim with snakes. It is thought that Snake Island came to be when the snakes got trapped as a result of the rising sea levels, which disconnected this island from the mainland. The reason people aren't allowed to visit is obviously to protect the humans who want to go, but also to protect the snakes that live here, as some of them aren't seen anywhere else in the world, likely because of the lack of human interference. There's a critically endangered species of snake called a golden lancehead, and on this island there are about 4,000 of them, which is critical to the species being able to continue on. As of now, only a few select researchers and the Brazilian Navy are permitted to go to the island. In our number 6 spot today, we have Area 51. This is probably one of the most famous of all of the prohibited places, and that is likely because of just how many stories and conspiracy theories are surrounding it. Area 51 is a US military installation that the government insisted didn't exist, until 2013. The area is said to mainly be used as a testing site by the CIA and the US Air Force because of its remote location 100 miles north of Las Vegas, but people don't buy it. People seriously believe that this site could be holding things like crashed UFOs, actual aliens, mermaids, you know, conspiracy theory stuff. At the end of the day, whether it's aliens or testing technology, the stuff that they are doing there is super secret, and there's a reason it's so protected. That hasn't stopped many people from trying to go there over the years, however. I mean, remember a couple years back when people wanted to storm it? Yeah. Good luck. In our number 5 spot today we have Mount Omine. This mountain is the home of the Yamabushi monks, and it is famous for its 3 tests of courage. So not everyone is banned from this place, but women sure are. The ban on women was placed in order to help remove thoughts of temptations from the monks as they practiced their strict lifestyle. Here's the thing with this rule though. There have been many females who have still gone here. They refer to the ban as a more voluntary situation. Both the temple and the local community call it a request rather than a rule or a law, and the request is in order to respect their tradition, as well as, of course, like I mentioned before, to help them. In our number 4 spot today we have Morgan Island. This is a place that is also referred to as Monkey Island, and this is due to the colony of about 4,000 rhesus monkeys who call this place home. The thing is though, the monkeys aren't originally from this South Carolina island, they were actually relocated here from Puerto Rico. Basically, these monkeys were living in a sort of research center before moving to this island, but it was becoming overpopulated, and some of the monkeys who carried infectious diseases were escaping, which posed quite a health and safety risk. This is when South Carolina stepped in and offered this uninhabited island as a place for these monkeys to go and continue to be researched. There are now laws that prohibit anyone from the island for both yours as well as the monkeys' safety. In our number 3 spot today we have Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Grove is a privately owned campsite in Monte Rio in California, and it's the home to the wealthy and exclusive Bohemian Club. This club is only for some exclusive groups of men, despite the few dire attempts at including women. Every year there is a 2-week-long retreat that the club hosts on the private grounds, and while there have been 4 women who have been invited to the club as honorary members, the women are never invited to the Grove. Because of this weird ban and just the entire super strange nature of this whole ordeal, both the club and the Grove are part of many conspiracy theories. There has been no shortage of outsiders trying to sneak into the Grove to see what the heck is going on there, and to see if they can get to the bottom of what this secretive club is really hiding. To be honest, there's definitely something sketchy going on with this whole thing, because it really just does give off like the weirdest vibes. They also have this weird club motto that says, quote, "Weaving spiders come not here." I'm not sure what that means, but it definitely sounds weird. Just a bunch of guys hanging out and no one else is allowed. I don't know, it's weird. Bohemian Grove has entered the chat. They're mad at me. In our number 2 spot today we have Metro 2. During the time where Stalin was in power, it is said that he instructed that an underground secret transport system would be built, known as Metro 2. This mysterious underground system is said to connect different administrative institutions, and it's even rumored that it contains apartments and different technical rooms. It's sort of like a secret escape tunnel for high-level officials. Of course, it's completely blocked off to outsiders or the general public, and while the Moscow Metro administration denies that these tunnels even exist, there was an urban exploration group back in 1994 that claimed to have found the entrance. At this point in time, the existence of only one of the rumored 4 lines has been confirmed, and it is called D6. In our number 1 spot today we have the Fukushima exclusion zone. Back in 2011 there was the Fukushima nuclear disaster which struck Japan. Because of this horrible incident, residents located within 18 miles of the plant were urged to evacuate, similar to the Chernobyl nuclear disaster we talked about before. In fact, this meltdown and Chernobyl's are the only 2 events to receive a level 7 event classification on the International Nuclear Event Scale. Because of this extreme radiation contamination, no one is allowed to enter the premises. Of course, I can't see why anyone would want to, but there are people who want to take the risk. This includes a 27-year-old photographer who decided to illegally sneak into the Fukushima exclusion zone. He explained that it looked like a real-life life version of Fallout.
Number 10. Sandy Island. This island's located in the South Pacific. Apparently. Maybe it's not. We're not really sure yet. It's only been visited by a handful of people throughout history, but it will most likely remain uncharted forever, officially. See, the island seemingly disappeared. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, someone lost an island. They're like, wait, was it this? West or east? I thought it was... The island's gone. Today we have islands appearing out of the ocean, but back then, this one vanished. Back in the late 19th century, Sandy Island was noted on a number of maps and nautical charts, of course. But years ago, people went to go check it out and they found nothing in the area. Yeah, just water. Just a mystery South Pacific island. Yeah, we love those. Let's book a flight, I guess. It was located, supposedly, between Australia and New Caledonia. But where could it have gone, right? What's the deal here? What happened? Was it purposely put on the wrong location on maps, or was it a human error? Either way, I want answers. Maybe it's just the planet flooding. It's probably that. It's probably that. That's sad. Number 9. Lake Vostok. Lake Vostok is one of Earth's lost worlds, okay? Despite it being the world's 6th largest lake by volume, and us living so close to a massive lake, I'm like, what? There was another one? Who knew? We don't talk about this one often because it's a subglacial lake that has been covered in a thick layer of ice for millions and millions of years. I'm Canadian, and I'm like, you know what? I'll still swim in it. Let's do it. I'll do anything. Because of this thick layer of ice, there's little to no sunlight that's actually able to reach the water. But despite this and freezing cold temperature, it's believed that somehow this lake is home to many undiscovered species. It's extremely difficult to search this water because of the, ice, and scientists thankfully don't want to contaminate the water with things like antifreeze or anything like that just to find out. So for now, the lake and all it has to offer, it's gonna stay unknown and unexplored. So no tubing anytime soon, I don't think. Number 8, the Amazon rainforest. Here we go, I'm itchy thinking about this one. The Amazon rainforest is massive. It covers a total area of 2.5 million square miles, right? It's bigger than we can even imagine. And it's home to the most beautiful animals and wildlife. Now, due to its size and dangers, a large part of the Amazon rainforest is uncharted. We have no idea what it looks like in any sense. In fact, it's considered one of the least explored areas on Earth. One of the reasons why this is the case is because not only is the forest filled with deadly animals like jaguars and anacondas, Brazilian wandering spiders, everything that makes you go, ugh, nope, stuff like that, but also explorers would have a tough time getting access to enough food and clean drinking water because, it's still the Amazon. There's not gonna be a Starbucks around where you can can you just fill this up, please? It's just water. Thanks so much. Can you make me a milkshake at 6 a.m.? Thanks. And not only that, the Amazon gets rain all year round, which can cause heavy flooding. Trench foot, that's probably pretty bad. The water levels can rise and flood, and it makes transportation through the area way too dangerous and not worth it. So we're gonna leave it alone, for now at least. Number 7, Cape Melville. Cape Melville is located in Australia, and it's home to another lost world of Earth, okay? Which is just something we have no idea that even exists. Here we go. It truthfully wasn't discovered until recently, and that's due to the surrounding, wall of granite boulders that are hundreds of feet tall. That probably has something to do with it, okay? But inside the stone wall, it's amazing. It's mysterious and uncharted. It's this massive rainforest, which is just the coolest thing ever. Because of the more recent discovery and the lack of exploration, this area has been preserved in its natural state, which is something not easily found on our superpopulated, disgusting planet. This place is only accessible by helicopter, which is kind of badass if you really want to do it, and it's only seen one major scientific exploration yet. But on this one adventure, at least 3 new species were discovered, including the leaf-tailed gecko. Yeah, check this guy out. We found a dinosaur. How lovely is that? I'm sure there's going to be further research of this area to learn about all these endemic species that live there and, to study how they evolved to fit this interesting ecosystem. But for now, yeah, let's just leave it alone. Looks like something from Game of Thrones. It's horrible. Number 6, La Rinconada. This town is located near the Peruvian Andes. It's very close to a gold mine, and it's actually the highest permanent settlement in the world at 5,100 meters above sea level. Between 2001 and 2009, the population of the town increased greatly because the price of gold rose 235% during that time. So yeah, people are gonna come out. Now because of that elevation, the town has an alpine tundra climate and an average temperature of around 1 degree Celsius, so it's not comfortable. Many of those who work for the gold mines here work under a pretty horrible condition. They work 25 days in the month for no pay, and then for 5 days in the month, they can work for themselves, and they're allowed to take as much ore as they can carry on their shoulders alone. It's horrible. There's no guarantee that the ore will have any gold in it also. This is a terrible system, and it's why many of the town's residents still live in poverty. The town is a 6-hour bus ride from the nearest city on an unpaved road, and there's not really a regular bus schedule which goes back and forth, so it's gonna be a really hard place to get to. Number 5, Palmerston Island. we're probably not going to see a season of Survivor here. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. Palmerston Island is a coral paradise located in the Cook Islands in the Pacific Ocean. Now Palmerston is a very islet in a series of smaller islets that are on a set of coral rings. It's basically built on a coral reef that encloses a lagoon. It's the hardest place to get to. The only one of these islets that's inhabited, it's one that's called home, ironically. The closest island to Palmerston is Rarotonga, which is the capital of the Cook Islands, and it would be about 2-day sailing trip to make it to the 500-kilometer distance. So you gotta have those arms warmed up, I guess. But if you aren't already on that island or planning to stop at both of these islands, the next closest trip would be about an 8-day sail from Tahiti. Now, since the islet is so small, there of course is no airports, so ships are the only way to get here, and supply ships only visit the inhabited island a few times a year. The reef only allows room for smaller boats to pass through, which makes any kind of larger ship unsafe to pass through. Obviously, it's not worth it to even take a large yacht. The island does see a tropical climate, but it's very exposed to tropical cyclones as well, which of course can cause a whole set of problems. So, worth it? Probably not. Just avoid it. Number 4, Valle du Javari. When I do videos on these isolated tribes of these worlds, we always mention Valle du Javari quite a few times because it's the home to the highest concentration of uncontacted tribes in the world. And that's part of the reason we know so little about it. And it's clear that this region has everything we need to sustain life, as many people live entirely off of the land and all it has to offer. But much of it remains a mystery, of course, which truthfully is probably a good thing. If we got involved, we'd probably throw up Disneyland there or something horrible. Aside from this area being protected in order to preserve the uncontacted tribes, the area is also surrounded by rivers that often flood or have currents that are too strong to even travel through, which doesn't make it easy to even get to. So again, leave it alone. Number 3, Marianas Trench. Around 71% of the Earth is covered in water, and yet the oceans are the places we know the least about, which is kind of terrifying when you think about it. Marianas Trench is located in the western part of the Pacific Ocean, just east of the Philippines, and it's the deepest part of our planet's ocean. It's scary to think of. It's really, I don't like it. James Cameron went there once, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna make 5 avatars. What did he see, right? I have some questions. The trench is in the shape of a crescent, and it's about 2,550 kilometers long and 69 kilometers wide. Its exact depth is unknown, but what we do know is that if we took Mount Everest, we'd be able to just fully put it in the trench, and its summit would still be underwater by more than 2 kilometers. So yeah, horrifyingly deep. The pressure is so deep in the ocean that it's far too great for humans to withstand. The temperature is also just above freezing, and it's impossibly dark. We're actually closer to tourists visiting Mars on an average than we are with tourists visiting Marianas Trench. You know what I mean? That's a weird truth. There have been a very small number of divers who have explored what is called the Challenger Deep, which is the deepest known spot of the trench, but of course not without super heavy duty equipment like a massive submarine, and no one's been able to stay there for an extended amount of time because they'll get squished. Most of it still remains a mystery. Yeah, anything that lives down there too, also a complete mystery. Some deep sea squid, I'm all set. Number 2, Singhi National Park. Singhi National Park is located on the western edge of Madagascar, but today I want to talk about the 2 large geographical features in said park, which are Big Singhi and Little Singhi. Now Singhi can be translated into English as roughly where one cannot walk bare feet, and when you see this you'll realize why it's named such. These rock formations are just jagged. It looks like something you'd find in outer space. They have these deep ruts cut into them by the groundwater, which has left them totally unable to be walked on or through. It's just, like I said, it's like something from outer space. This whole area is incredibly fascinating, and it's home to many endemic species because of its, unusual geography. Some of these species are found only within extremely small areas within the Singhis because the summit, slope, and base of one limestone needle will all form completely different ecosystems, which is unbelievable. Every area has like its own creature that just comes out of nowhere. The Singhis are a perfect example of what happens when humans leave a place alone and let nature and the earth just exist, right? Minus Disneyland's. It would be an amazing place to go to and explore, but because of the nature and the limestone needles, we can't just walk around with our Crocs. So again, leave it alone. And finally, number 1, Siwa Oasis. Siwa is an urban oasis between the Katara Depression and the Great Sand Sea in the Western Desert. The oasis is one of Egypt's most isolated settlements, but it's still home to around 33,000 people. The residents have developed a unique and isolated desert culture and language called Siwi, but they're also fluent in an Egyptian dialect of Arabic. The oasis isn't necessarily a super popular tourist destination, as the closest city is Cairo, and the oasis is still a 5-hour bus ride away, and obviously it's in the middle of the desert. But those who do take the trip certainly are not disappointed. If visiting, you can enjoy some locally grown dates and olives, which I can only imagine are just incredible. You can also swim in Cleopatra's Bath, which is a mineral spring, and you can even stay at the Desert Eco Lodge, which is built from mud and salt. That's beautiful. Tourism is actually a vital source of income for the oasis, so visitors here are welcome. I want to finish on a nice number 1 where it's like, you know what, this one you actually can go to if you're brave enough. Because of how isolated Siwa is, the culture and traditions of the people who live here really have been preserved, which would make it such an interesting and wonderful place to visit if you have the opportunity.
Coming in at number 10, the Elite Disney 33 Club in Anaheim, California. Disney might be open to the public, but this area of Disney is actually off limits and reserved only for the elite of the elite. In Disneyland, located in Anaheim, California, there is an area that was built by Walt Disney, but he unfortunately never got the chance to enjoy it due to his death before construction was finished. Now, the club was originally created as a place for him to entertain important guests. Now this area is still for important guests as the entry is invite only, on top of a $100,000 fee and $30,000 in annual dues. For those of you who have been to Disneyland, which I have not by the way, you probably have walked through New Orleans Square, which is a replica of Louisiana's iconic city. Somewhere there though, you'll find Club 33, a members only destination. Now the invite only club has a wait list and I doubt that I'll ever get to go there, but it sounds really cool. Number 9. The Hollywood Sign, Los Angeles, California. I think you all know what I'm talking about when I bring up the Hollywood Sign. Now, you might be confused. It's a huge tourist attraction. Yes, it is. But there are areas around the sign that are prohibited. The closest you can get to the sign is behind and above the sign where you can enjoy the fabulous view of the city. The sign is on rough, steep terrain and there are barriers to prevent unauthorized access. In the year 2000, the Los Angeles Police Department installed a security system featuring motion detection and closed-circuited cameras. Any movement in the marked restricted areas triggers an alarm that notifies the police, therefore you cannot go and touch the sign. Access to other areas are restricted and the area is heavily surveilled as it's monitored 24/7 as mentioned before by the Los Angeles Police and Fire Departments and park rangers. Although some people have gone through security to vandalize the sign, I mean, does anyone remember Hollyweed on January 1st, 2017? Nope, just me? Okay. Well, it remains mostly prohibited. Number 8. Hart Island, Bronx, New York. Hart Island is located in the Bronx, New York and is a 1-mile long strip of land in the Long Island Sound that has served many functions over centuries. The island's first public use was as a training ground for the United States colored troops in 1864. Since then, Hart Island has been the location of a Union Civil War prison camp, a psychiatric institution, a tuberculosis sanatorium, a potter's field with mass burials, a homeless shelter, a boys reformatory, a jail, a drug rehabilitation center, and a cemetery. You can get to the island, but it is very difficult. Hart Island is only open one weekend each month for families to visit grave sites. Other members of the public must book an appointment months in advance, but it can even be rejected. Coming in at number 7 is New York Stock Exchange, New York City, New York. Thanks to movies including The Wolf of Wall Street and The Big Short, many of us has become fascinated by what goes on inside the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, I know I am. It's easily the most important landmark on Wall Street since the stock exchange practically created the financial district by marketing the neighborhood as an area of business. The main building was built in 1903 and it impressed everybody. This high-profile building was once open to visitors at one point, but it has been closed off to visitors since the September 11th attacks. The increased security now makes it impossible to get too close, but you can soak up all its glory from the outside. It sucks that you can't go inside anymore, but it's a valid reason and safety is important. Number 6. Robbins Island, Suffolk County, New York. Located just off Long Island, this private island is not only extremely valuable as it's impossible to access. The 435-acre teardrop of land belongs to billionaire businessman Louis Bacon and is thought to be worth around $500 million. He purchased it in 1993 at a
bankruptcy court auction for only $11 million. He has made significant investments in restoring the neglected island, going so far as to import full-grown oak trees to replace the ones harvested for lumber years earlier. Some non-native grasses were removed from the island and replaced, and hunters reduced the overgrown deer population. The island has the healthiest turtle population in the state, which includes the eastern mud turtle. Lewis has spent years rebuilding the ecosystem, and he believes allowing others on the island will lead to its destruction, so no one can visit. Number 5. The Knickerbocker Club, New York City, New York. If you happen to be among the world's elite, you might just be lucky enough to be invited inside this stunning Georgian mansion. If not, then this is as close as you'll get to the Knickerbocker Club or the Knick. Now, what is it? It's considered one of America's most exclusive societies. It was founded in 1871 by 18 former members of the Union Club who did not like the Union's club expansion of the membership. Among the Knickerbocker Club founders were such prestigious New Yorkers as Alexander Hamilton and John Jacob Astor. This club is considered one of the most aristocratic gentlemen's clubs in the world, and it only has one rule concerning giving out information about the club, and that is to never give any information out about the club ever. The men-only club is secretive, it doesn't even have a website. Their single Yelp review says, "Truly one of the finest private men's clubs in America. We had a lovely dinner with friends there, it is a reciprocal with the club I belong to. Highly recommend if you get an invitation." Now, the fact that members are forbidden to discussing the going-ons with anyone is interesting, but it seems like someone blabbed though, because if it truly was a secret, we wouldn't know about it, now would we? Anyway, it had many notable members, including Franklin D. Roosevelt and financier J.P. Morgan. Number 4. Rikers Island, New York City, New York. Rikers Island is a 413-acre island in the East River between Queens and the Bronx that contains New York City's main jail complex. It's been there since 1932 and has gained a reputation for brutality and mistreatment. Rikers Island has a reputation for violence, both abuse and neglect of inmates, attracting increased press and judicial scrutiny that has resulted in numerous rulings against the New York City government and numerous by inmates on uniformed and civilian staff, often resulting in serious injuries. In May 2013, Rikers Island ranked as one of the 10 worst correctional facilities in the United States. It's also one of the world's largest correctional institutions and mental institutions that's operated by the New York City Department of Correction, which has a budget of $860 million a year. It has a staff of 9,000 officers and 1,500 civilians who manage 100,000 admissions per year. An average daily population is around 10,000 inmates. The likes of David Berkowitz, the serial killer known as Son of Sam, and Sex Pistol Sid Vicious were incarcerated on Rikers, and today it remains one of America's most notorious prisons. Number 3. Mount Weather, Bluemont, Virginia. If the world is ending, I want to go here. Mount Weather is a facility located in Bluemont, Virginia that is controlled by the Federal Emergency Management Agency. This facility is used to support emergency management operations and is located on a 434-acre site and is run by 240 employees. Mount Weather Emergency's Operations Center has important communication links with the White House and reportedly includes an underground bunker with its own hospital, crematorium, and emergency power plant. Today, Mount Weather is home to 6 major disaster operation facilities and remains off limits to civilians. It's considered the safest spot in the world. In the event of a nuclear war or zombie apocalypse, US government officials will be gathered and sent there. It was built during the Cold War, and this facility is designed to protect people and national treasures from an event of global destruction. Number 2. ADX Florence, Florence, Colorado. Could ADX Florence be America's most secure building? I think so. ADX Florence is an American federal prison in Fremont County near Florence, Colorado. It is operated by the Federal Bureau of Prisons, a division of the United States Department of Justice. It opened in 1994 and is classed as a supermax or control unit prison, referring to its extremely high levels of security, as it has a more controlled level of custody than maximum security prison. ADX Florence was commissioned when the Federal Bureau of Prisons needed a unit designed specifically for the secure housing of those prisoners more more capable of extreme violence towards staff or other inmates. As of August 2022, there are a total of 341 inmates housed. They are confined 23 hours per day in single cells with facilities of poured reinforced concrete to deter self-harm, and they are under 24-hour supervision, which is carried out intensively with high staff-inmate ratios. Now, during their hour outside the cell, which can occur at any time, day or night, they are kept under restraint, handcuffed, shackled, or both. The hour outside the cell is for exercise and a phone call if they have earned the privilege. Their diet is restricted due to ensure that the food cannot be used to harm themselves or create unhygienic conditions in their cell. Some cells even have showers, which further reduces the amount of handling of inmates that correctional officers have to perform. In fact, this is such a secure facility that very few images of it exist. And coming in at number 1, Morgan Island, also known as Monkey Island, is located in Beaufort County, South Carolina. Historically, the island has been uninhabited due to its location and distance from the mainland. But in 1979, it was established as a home for a colony of free-ranging rhesus monkeys, hence the name Monkey Island. Originally, the monkey colony now located on Morgan Island was located at the Caribbean Primate Research Center in La Parguera, Puerto Rico. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, there were incidents of the free-ranging monkeys escaping, carrying viral herpes B infections, which led to outbreaks in the local population. Puerto Rico was alarmed by this, and South Carolina stepped in to offer an inhabited island for research. In 1979 and 1980, over 1,400 animals were relocated to Morgan Island. The island is owned by the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, and the monkeys are owned by the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. The monkeys are used for public health research by the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Now, the risk they carry with having diseases is the reasons why it isn't safe for any human to come in contact with them. It's said that there are more than 3,500 monkeys and that it's such a safety issue that they are fed through an automated machine. Some humans have entered the island only if necessary, and after their visit to the island, they are quarantined to prevent spread of any diseases.
At number 10, Bohemian Grove. The only way you're getting to this super exclusive club is if you're a very powerful man. Bohemian Grove is a private club for the most powerful men in the US, located on a restricted 2,700-acre campground on Bohemian Ave in Monte Rio, California. Every July, its members travel to the grounds for a 2-week retreat to relax and specifically not network. There is little known about what happens during the retreat. One thing powerful men are good at is keeping things hidden. The club's all-male membership includes many artists, musicians, prominent business leaders, government officials, former presidents, and senior media executives. Members are also allowed to bring guests and even rent out the grounds for its off-season private events. If your interest has been sparked, good luck getting anywhere near Bohemian Grove. It's protected by security year-round, with the club employing ex-military personnel to secure the area. They also utilize high-end equipment like thermal cameras and vibration sensing alarm systems. Some presidents that have visited are George Bush, Richard Nixon, and Ronald Reagan. Basically, there's no chance of getting in unless you have some pretty important friends. Number 9, the Coca-Cola Vault. Coca-Cola is one of the biggest brands in the world. The corporation was founded in 1892, so the recipe has been around for over 120 years. It definitely has undergone some tweaks since the 1800s, but now it doesn't contain illegal substances, so it really only changed for the better. The secret formula is located inside World of Coca-Cola in Atlanta, Georgia. While you can absolutely visit the museum itself, showcasing the history of the company, the actual vault that holds the formula is off limits. The actual recipe is located inside of a metal box inside of a 6.6-foot high vault, which is then further protected by a barrier, and the entire area has surveillance with armed guards. The door to the vault can only be opened by a keypad with a hand scanner. It sounds a bit extreme to take all these measures over the recipe for Coke, but with the company bringing in over $42 billion in 2022, the extra security makes total sense. I never thought about seeing the formula of Coke, but now that I know it's in a highly guarded fancy safe, I've never wanted to see something more. Number 8, Granite Mountain Records Vault. The The world's largest collection of genealogical records lives in a secure vault located quite literally in the mountains near Salt Lake City, Utah. The Granite Mountain Records Vault was built in 1965 by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The purpose of the vault is to preserve and protect records of importance to the church, like its vast collection of family history microfilms. This is an extremely secure facility with no public access allowed. What we do know is that it's home to 2.4 million rolls of microfilm containing approximately 3.5 billion images of family history records. I guess when the Mormon Church says they're a family-centered faith, they aren't kidding. The church is collecting all of these microfilmed images in order to digitize them and turn them into digital records available through FamilySearch.org. Some people think there is more going on in that facility than we're being told, with conspiracy theories and suspicions surrounding the whole operation. The vault is located under 700 feet of solid mountain stone with 3 tunnels and 4 cross tunnels inside, spanning over 65,000 square feet. They also have reinforced entrance doors that weigh 14 tons each and were said to be able to withstand a nuclear blast. These factors are what really led people to being skeptical of their operations because A, that's a lot of room for converting microfilms, B, that's a lot of security for the names of the deceased, and C, more recent images of the vault seem to show they've expanded the facility to now have 5 entrances instead of 3. Some thoughts surrounding what else is stored there are significant artifacts, ancient relics, or even a bunker. Maybe the expansion is just for expanding operations, but who knows, maybe they really are hiding something else in that vault. At number 7, Area 51. The widely known name refers to that of a highly classified United States Air Force facility located in Nevada, which is highly prohibited to those without authorization. The fact that it's a government facility that is super off limits and highly guarded has led people to famously associate Area 51 with aliens. For decades now, the facility has been the eye of a conspiracy theory storm, with people convinced that aliens and their technology exist behind its walls. Being told you can't go somewhere or that something is a secret only makes you more interested to know about it. There have been many books, TV shows, and even plans online for massive raids trying to get a glimpse of what lies beyond the very prominent warning signs, to no success. Upon looking at Area 51, it appears like the only protection against unwanted guests is the many warning signs, but apparently not a single thing goes unnoticed. Beyond the gates, cameras see every angle, watching everything below. Locals say the base knows every desert tortoise and jackrabbit that hops the fence. No matter how interested you may be, only a select few have access to what goes on there, causing so many theories and speculations. Who knows, maybe it's alien experiments, maybe it's the most mundane, boring work we could ever imagine. Either way, we aren't going to be finding out anytime soon. Number 6, Cheyenne Mountain Complex. It's located at Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station, or CMAF, within the Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado Springs, Colorado. The CMAF falls under Air Force Base Command and hosts the activities of several tenant units. At the height of the Cold War, the idea of a hardened command center was thought of as a defense against long-range Soviet bombers. The Army Corps of Engineers supervised the excavation of Cheyenne Mountain and the construction of an operational center. The facility became fully operational as the NORAD Combat Operations Center in early 1967. Since it's a big old place for government stuff, Cheyenne Mountain Complex is protected and closed to the public. It's located under 2,000 feet of granite with 6 tunnels, each 3 stories tall. It's also secured against seismic activity and nuclear explosions. So basically, it's pretty high on the list of places I would like to be during a zombie apocalypse. It has 2 main blast doors which are 3.5 feet thick and weigh over 20 tons. These massive doors close in times of emergency and have only been shut once during 9/11. Since this complex is home to so many important operations like a space control center and national warning facility, it's locked and guarded to the nines. That being said, since we know some of what's going on down there, it's far less desirable to visit. At number 5, Tillamook Rock Lighthouse. Located on the northern Oregon coast of the United States, also known as Terrible Tilly or just Tilly, this is one lighthouse that you can't visit. Tilly gained its nickname from the ferocious storms and difficulties facing the lighthouse keepers. Tillamook Rock rises nearly 100 feet from the sea and is located 20 miles south of the mouth of the Columbian River. Building the lighthouse in the first place was rough. The first person hired to take on the project was master mason and lighthouse builder John Trewavis. Unfortunately, John ended up being swept out to sea after falling off the rock before he could get far. After this incident, craftsmen were reluctant to work on the lighthouse, but construction foreman Charles Ballantyne stepped up with a crew of 8. Once on the rock, the men worked under horrible conditions. One day the wind was so bad it swept swept away their supply house and left workers stranded for 16 days. After preparing the rock, the construction of Tilly took over 100 days to complete. Tillamook Rock Lighthouse began operations in January 1881. With a starting budget of just $50,000, Tilly cost closer to $125,000 in the end. Duty at Tillamook Rock meant isolation, horrible storms, and hazardous environment. On top of that, supplies sent to the rock were often delayed for days or even weeks. It was decommissioned in 1957 due to the extensive wear and tear. The lighthouse has bounced between a few private owners since shutting off its light. Even if you wanted to visit Tilly today, you'd have to resort to a helicopter because of the harsh waters. The rock is even off limits to its owners come time for the seabird nesting season. At number 4, Dulce Base. Like Area 51, Dulce Base is the subject of conspiracy theories claiming that a jointly operated human and alien underground facility exists. Apparently, the facility lies under the Archuleta Mesa Mountain on the Colorado-New Mexico border near the town of Dulce, New Mexico. On the surface, Dulce is just your average small town, so small it doesn't even have a single traffic light. According to the bizarre claims, the small town is just the tip of the iceberg. The alleged massive underground facility is said to be home to unimaginable experiments and technologies. For the extreme alien believers, we are all overlooking a high-tech world full of aliens. According to the conspiracy theorists, the Dulce subterranean base is a 7-story compound that houses human-animal hybrids, human-alien hybrids, and extremely advanced technologies. It is possible that it's all made up, but if the government really was experimenting with aliens, it would make sense that they do it under a mountain near a very small town. One thing I find interesting about the Dulce base is that these theories are not new. First claims of the base's existence date all the way back to the 1930s. The rumors of alien intervention didn't start up until the 70s when a former state police trooper named Gabe Valdez documented unexplained cattle mutilations in the area. There have also been claims of UFO sightings and other paranormal activity in the area over the years. Secret aliens or not, it sounds like there's definitely something strange going on in Dulce that I don't want to look any further into. Number 3, Fort Knox. I bet you've heard at least once in your life someone make a reference to something being harder to get into than Fort Knox, and there's a reason for this. Fort Knox is a United States Army installation in Kentucky, south of Louisville. The reason it's so hard to get into Fort Knox is because of the Bullion Depository, a fortified vault located adjacent to the Fort Knox Army Post. It's operated by the United States Mint Police, and it's super well known for its physical security. The depository was built back in 1936 and is operated by the United States Department of the Treasury. The excessive security is in place because it's home to over half the entire country's gold reserves. Early shipments of gold totaling almost 13,000 metric tons were escorted by combat cars to the depository. In the past, it's also been home to other precious items like the Constitution of the United States and the Declaration of Independence. Fort Knox is so heavily protected and secure that the vicinity is off limits to visitors. Even the president has limitations. In fact, only one president has ever been allowed entry, and that was Franklin Roosevelt back in 1943. Along with the heavy-duty physical barriers and fences, the government pays $5 million annually just for security. Number 2, North Brother Island. This tiny island in New York City is located smack dab in the middle of the East River between the Bronx and Rikers Island. It was the site of the infamous Riverside Hospital for quarantinable diseases. If you've ever heard of Typhoid Mary, this is the place where she spent her final days and finally succumbed to her namesake illness in 1938. After World War II, the island was repurposed as housing for veterans and their families. Then it transitioned to being a rehabilitation center for adolescent substance use, which ended up closing in the 60s amid allegations of fraud. After being home to many dark but important facilities, the entire North Brothers Island was closed permanently to the public and became a bird sanctuary. That being said, photographer Christopher Payne was able to go to the island in 2006 after being granted access by the New York City Department of Recreation. The photos he captured of the island are a little haunting, especially with its history of rehab centers and hospitals for the disease. These photos are interesting to see, but do not make me want to visit the abandoned island even if I could. The whole place looks like it's been taken over by, well, birds, and it's crazy that it's so close to the hustle and bustle of the city. Many people have stepped foot on the North Brother Island over the years, but now the only way to get a glimpse is through Payne's photos or if you have wings and a beak. And at number 1, Niihau Island. This island has been privately owned for over 100 years with only an estimated 170 residents. The invite-only only island sparked so much interest from travelers across the world due to its extreme exclusivity, commonly referred to as Hawaii's Forbidden Island. It is the westernmost main and 7th largest inhabited island in all of Hawaii. Niihau is also a crucial habitat for some endangered plant species. The island was purchased by Elizabeth St. Clair in 1864 for just $10,000, which would be the equivalent to about $170,000 in 2021. St. Clair purchased it from the Kingdom of Hawaii, and the ownership has been passed down for generations, currently belonging to her grandsons, the Robinson brothers. The island is off limits to all outsiders unless the brothers Bruce and Keith personally invite you for a visit. The people of Niihau are noted for their remarkable craftsmanship and mainly speak in Hawaiian. The reason they have kept the island off limits to the outside world is due to a promise made to a former Hawaiian king. The promise was to protect the island from the mainland and the rest of the world to maintain the beloved heritage, and that's exactly what they've done. To this day, Niihau has rejected the use of modern technologies and survives without electricity, running water, internet, doors, restaurants, paved roads, or cars. A modern-day ancient civilization. It would be fascinating to see how they do things over on Niihau, but it's nice to know they've kept their promise for so long.
Starting off our list at number 10. Lake Natron. Okay, we got a few bodies of water on this list, and each one is horrible in their own unique way. This is considered one of the most inhospitable areas of the world. The lake's extreme levels of sodium carbonate decahydrate make the water corrosive to human skin and eyes, so you don't want to look at this stuff or touch it, just back away pretty much. But the only animal that you'll see that's bigger than bacteria is a flamingo. Yeah, the protection of this lake is vital for us and also flamingos and wildlife. Save them by not tubing in this lake. Awesome. Number 9, Death Valley. With a name like Death Valley, it's gotta be pretty bad, right? There's a Death Valley in Zelda, that one sucks, I don't know. Death Valley sits on the California-Nevada border. It's known, of course, for its extreme heat. One of the hottest places on Earth, in fact. The only deserts on the planet that come close to the same level of heat here is in the Middle East and Africa, and on peak heat days, you know what I mean? It's like a different planet, Death Valley, it's horrible. Back in July 2018, Death Valley was the hottest place the Earth has ever seen. Broke records. For 4 days in a row, the average temperature went as high as 127 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 52 degrees Celsius. Imagine it's 52 outside. I'm sweating thinking about Death Valley. It feels like it's 52 degrees in that parking lot outside. I don't know why, but it's so hot right now. Number 8, Skeleton Coast. Again, another lovely name right off the hop. This one is not from a Zelda game, not yet at least, but it sits north of Namibia. It reaches from the South Kikine River to the Swakop River. It again lands on the deadly places on Earth list, but this time, why? There's water here, right? We could just cool down if need be, right? Well, the area, firstly, if its name didn't tip you off, is covered in skeletons. Nothing can survive here due to its harsh climates and toxic water, and you guessed it, human activity. Yeah, we kind of ruined this one as well. Humans tend to make things worse. Who knew? Number 7, Israel Cursed Tomb. Here we go, into the Mummy franchise, let's do it. A secret tomb was discovered in Israel only a couple of months ago. Now this is the first time a tomb has been found at the UNESCO World Heritage Site in 65 years, so it's quite a big deal. The actual cave itself was discovered a year ago, but these smaller chambers are now being found recently, right? As in like a month or two ago, recently. It's exciting on one page, but on the other, it's scary because some tombs are cursed. This one came with a message. It vows to curse anybody who would open said grave. And this message is written in blood red, just to make it more horrible. So yeah, can we not open this one? Maybe? I don't know, last time we had a black sarcophagus in Egypt, people were sticking their heads in, and then, I don't know, pandemic arrived 2 years later, so let's stop. Number 6, Egyptian tomb. We're all curious about what happens after you die, right? But nobody celebrated the end of your days like the ancient Egyptians. It was beautiful. Some tombs are cursed, others are, you know, nice. Ancient Egyptians would paint doors, they would leave valuables. Any new tomb we discover now provides more hints as to what lies beyond, perhaps. An ancient necropolis was discovered only a few years ago, again in Egypt, and in it contained dozens of coffins and a necklace that holds a message from the afterlife. Nice, now we're talking. We love little spoilers. Give us a hint. What can we expect? What should I wear? What's cover up there? This site is around 2,000 years old, and they're in the process currently of excavating it as we speak. But so far the tombs and artifacts found, officials think, belong to an ancient priestess. A message from the afterlife is pretty spectacular, but what does it say? Well, we're still waiting to find out, but we're close. We're getting into the right, you know. James Webb's looking up, we're looking down. This is good. I'm terrified either way. Number 5, Chernobyl. Of course, one of the greatest nuclear disasters ever. We have to talk about it. Back on April 26, 1986, reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl power complex went off due to unstable and low power levels. Reactor 4 had been shut down a day before due to maintenance, and the next day at 1:23 a.m., radioactive debris compiled of fuel and reactor components just rained down over the building. Toxic fumes were carried from the wind, and after just 4 months, 28 workers had passed away due to radiation exposure, and the whole area had to be shut down. Eventually, they had to evacuate over 100,000 residents, and to this day, that zone is a no-go. Reactor 4 will stay highly radioactive for another 20,000 years, yet there's some residents who apparently still live there. Somehow. How terrifying is that? Number 4. The Forbidden City. Of course, we have to mention this one. Located in Beijing, China, the Forbidden City has quite the reputation. I'm never going near this one. This building used to be the Imperial Palace, and of course, like other places on this list, it's not littered with tourists, but this time for unobvious reasons. This building has quite the grim history, so the amount of reports that come in, sightings of demons, there's a lot. Apparently there's a lot of demons just lurking around. The number of ghostly encounters shot up once the palace opened to the public in the 1940s. In many of these cases, visitors would report seeing a ghostly woman dressed in, you guessed it, all white. The classic ghost apparel. More often than not, you can find her ghost wandering the palace at night, weeping. Yeah, tourists say they hear a woman weeping in the hallways. I can't tell if I'm sad or scared. A little bit of both. Number 3. Lake Acid. Not to be confused with Lake Placid, although that one's also pretty bad in its own unique way. The Lake of Acid is in Ethiopia, and since we mentioned super acid earlier, I figured this would be a good one to bring out. It's also referred to as the gateway to hell. The Danakil Depression is made of boiling hot ponds that release chlorine and sulfur gases into the air, so you don't have to look, you don't have to touch, you can just inhale and you're doomed. Just simply standing around this lake can kill you. So where does something like this come from besides, I don't know, science fiction? This is horrible. How does a lake of acid just come to be? What the f? Like, you know what I mean? It's a lake of acid. Can we, get rid of it? This horrifying landscape is the result of 3 continental plates being torn apart. It's part of the East African Rift System. Not 1, but 2 active volcanoes surround the Danakil Depression. Hence the, bubbling magma lurking below the dry landscape. That's what does it. It's one of the hottest places on Earth for a reason. Active hydrothermal ozones aren't new. That's what Yellowstone National Park is, but you need a gas mask to go to this one, so, We're camping over here, we're dying over here. Let's avoid it. Number 2, North Sentinel Island. Heading over to India, this island is the home of the Sentinelese tribe. You've probably heard about this at some point. Don't go here. One of the most forbidden islands in the world, okay? But why? Located in the Bay of Bengal, North Sentinel Island is about 1,200 kilometers from India. And while most islands are shrinking, this one actually grew back in 2004. The island actually lifted up a couple of meters during an earthquake, so the universe is like, yes, more. The inhabitants on this floating cursed island are among the few uncontacted tribes left in the world, right? They haven't heard of the new iPhone or any of that. They're completely out of touch. They've been there for thousands of years and they're not going anywhere because, well, we're not trying to get close. There's no sign of agriculture or even fire, yet this tribe has thrived. If we try and get close, they try and drive everybody away. In fact, back in 2006, 2 fishermen lost their lives because they got too close to the island without knowing who or what was on it. The Indian government didn't roll up to the beach and start interrogating or arresting locals. Instead, it's now completely forbidden to go to this island. Yeah, just leave them. Let people be. For once in our human lives, please. And finally, number 1, North Brother Island. Located right between Rikers Island and the Bronx, quietly tucked away on the East River, North Brother Island is a very different looking place when it comes to New York. It's quiet. Everywhere else is busy and full of hot dogs and pigeons and people yelling in cabs. This place over here, eerily quiet. North Brother Island was once home to a hospital back in the 19th century. Oh, nice, how helpful is that? You may be thinking a hospital on an island. One, that's pretty inconvenient. Just rowing patients out there, you're like, hang on, buddy. Riverside Hospital was available for patients suffering from yellow fever, smallpox, tuberculosis. It was a quarantine zone, right? Although the hospital has since been abandoned, it's now sitting there just falling apart. Just cursed land. We love that. The island has been quite active though, in a way. A body was found near the island island, a steamship crashed on the island, there's a haunted lighthouse on the island, and they even have what's referred to as Coffin Corner. I thought Coffee Time was bad. Coffin Corner, that's pretty, I'm all set. I'd rather explore the Bronx than explore this island, to be honest with you.
Starting off this countdown, we have Umoja Village. Located in Kenya, this village was founded in 1990 by a woman named Rebecca Lolosoli. It was created as a safe haven for homeless women, women trying to escape forced marriages, or survivors of violence, etc. The idea came to her while she was in the hospital after being attacked by a group of men. This village is barred off by a fence of thorns to try and prevent men from entering. There are around 27 women and 200 children living at this village. The women that live there still work so they can afford clothes, food, and their shelter. On top of that, their village is open to female tourists with hope that they will come in and buy some of their jewelry. They also charge a fee for anyone that wants to come in. And at number 9, we have University Women's Club. And guys, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel because you know what? It really helps us out, so thank you. This is a female-only club that was founded in 1888 London. It was a space for women to come to just relax and unwind, not having to worry about their household duties or whatever. It was also a professional space where business meetings would take place. This club also offered 22 bedrooms so that you could stay if need be, and 2 big event rooms should you ever need to rent them out for private parties or whatever. This place was open for all women of all ages, just no men. Moving on to number 8, we have the International Club of Paris. The Women's International Club of Paris, or Le WIC de Paris, was a club open to any and all women. Its goal is to get women of all different nationalities living in or around Paris to join this club and share their culture with others in the group. The group does things such as film screenings, book clubs, and would do activities like gymnastics and learn other languages. This club is pretty big. They have 252 members from 52 different countries. Again, there's no men allowed in this club. It's strictly women coming together to learn more about each other and form connections. They also say that the space is non-political and non-religious. They just want everyone to get together as one. Moving on to number 7, we have Noiva de Cordeiro. This is a remote Brazilian village that is home to 600 women. Now, this village is interesting for a number of reasons. Number 1, most of the women living there are 20 to 35 years old, like that's pretty young. On top of that, they are known to be all stunningly beautiful. Now, this village is a bit different than the other places on this list. Men are allowed to visit, but typically they don't live there. But the only time they can visit is on the weekends. They're forced to work away from home, and that's the only time that they have to visit. But most of the women that live there run the show. They work in the field and manage all the village's finances. They're like the bosses. Coming in at number 6, we have New Woman Space. Founded by Wong and Sandra Hong, New Woman Space, located in Brooklyn, is a place where women can come together as one. It's located in Williamsburg and is specifically for entrepreneurs or those looking to collaborate with other women. At this location, they have book club meetings and yoga classes. The founder Wong says, and I quote, "Our location means there is no shortage of women submitting new ideas for classes and workshops, who want to host events in every realm you can think of, and those who have found comfort and strength in knowing there is a community space for them." We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the female-only parties. This next city, located in Colombia, is famous for having a men's curfew night. Basically, after a certain time at night, men are banned from leaving their homes. Literally, banned. Like, you could be fined for breaking this rule. Meanwhile, the women are free to roam the streets. On these nights, there are women-only concerts, film shows, and parties. Fire and police stations are taken over by female-only crews. It's a time for women to just, let loose and have fun. According to the mayor who created this idea, he said these female-only nights will reclaim public space for the women of Bogota and help men to get to know their homes. Moving on at number 4, we have the sorority. And no, I'm not talking about like a college or university sorority here. The sorority is a club only for women. It's described as an online network for professional women who want to collaborate and inspire others. Most of the meetings take place online. But if you live in London, some members meet regularly at different venues in London. Apparently, there are a couple members of royalty in this club. Now, if you are a female and this interests you and maybe you want to join the club, too bad, too sad. You can only get in by invitation only, so it's a pretty secretive club. On top of that, you have to fill out their pledge, which seems a little culty to me. But anyway, it seems like they want only the elite of the elite to be a part of this club. In our third spot, we have the Secret Society. Back in the 1840s, women were caught for having a number of different secret societies in New York. These societies were legit top secret. They didn't want men finding out about them at all. But this plan failed. In 1847, 4 of these secret societies were caught. Back then, it was a pretty big deal. Now, there's not much out there on these societies, like what went down, since it was so long ago. But apparently the government tried to break them up if they heard about them. When 4 clubs got exposed, they realized just how big they were. One society had 2,000 members. Like, that's insane. But yeah, with the amount of members, word was bound to get out sooner or later. In our second spot, we have Woman's Land. Now, this community spells its name Womans, as in W-O-M-Y-N-S, instead of M-A-N-S. Because they literally want nothing to do with men. No man in the name, no man ever allowed in the community. Now, this community was fairly large. It started as a social movement in the 1970s in the US, Australia, New Zealand, and Western Europe. Basically, it was a group of women that wanted to escape the patriarchal society. So they decided to make their own community. Many of them still exist today. Back then, these women lived in the woods on private land. And honestly, a lot of people didn't know they existed. Some were meant specifically for women that identified as lesbian, others were for women traveling across countries alone and needed a safe place to stay. Nowadays, there are still a few of these communities left. These women live in small cabins or shacks. The only issue is that these women are getting older and need a new generation of younger women to come and keep these communities alive. But not a lot of younger women are interested in this. And in our number 1 spot, we have Superski Island. Located off the coast of the Baltic Sea, the Superski Island is a secret vacation destination for only women. It's owned by a woman named Christina Roth. She first discovered this island while on vacation in Finland. From there, she purchased it and spent months doing massive renovations. Now the island has 4 renovated cabins that can hold up to 10 women. The whole purpose of this island is to look after the wellness of the female mind, bodies, and souls. While on the island, you can partake in a number of activities including yoga, meditation, kayaking, and hiking. Now, don't be fooled. It's not like you can just book a trip there and you're all set. No, you actually need to fill out an application. On the form, you have to write to Christina why you want to go to the island. And she is specifically looking for people that aren't just writing BS, but like actually truly want to go to the island to better themselves.